Just a second. Okay, it's pausing. Oh, here we go. It goes from nothing to everything. All right. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right. Let's do this.
This is my go ahead.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Your emoji. All
like
right.
an astronaut.
Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is That's a Crime. I'm Jason Connell.
And I'm Sal Rodriguez.
All right, Sal. We are back for another crime.
Yeah, a very interesting one.
Very interesting indeed. Yes, it is. The headlines popped off the page. I read it. We were going to cover this a couple weeks ago, but I wrote up the notes and kind of looked at a couple different articles because this is a foreign crime, different country, and sometimes the publications are tricky, Sal. I got to tell you, and some of the way they pronounce things. But it took a while, but it was fascinating and disturbing, and just right up our alley on That's a Crime.
Well, it also starts to get into one of my favorite topics, and that is the evidence.
Yes,
the forensics.
Yep.
Because my favorite crime show to this day is Forensic Files, is because they show you how they solved the crime.
Yeah.
I don't just want to know that the man was crazy or all that. Yeah, that's all fine. I want to know, how did they catch this person? Yeah. And here we are talking about it.
Before we do that, Sal, we go all forensic for you. A word from our sponsor.
Yes.
Support for That's a Crime is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming and offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, and with this exclusive offer, you'll get
20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code thatsacrime at manscaped.com.
All right. So today we are breaking down the true crime story of the porn star's iconic tattoos solve murder case in 2022. Headlines grab you right there, Sal.
Sure. Yeah, because these are a couple of topics which I find interesting. Two topics intertwined.
Porn stars and tattoos.
Well, it's one thing as a man, to be interested in porn stars. I think some of that may be normal. But as far as the tales that may coincide, some of the tragedies that may coincide, some of these people, some of the pasts that some of these people carry with them.
Right.
Arguably that might have brought them into that industry. That's a whole psychological analysis. But, who these people are, I actually do find interesting, and particularly how they got involved in such a career.
Yeah. And there's some really good movies that deal with this as well, like Boogie Nights.
Yes.
Wonderland Murders. And yeah, it's true. There's always like one step is in the seedy world, this underworld. But we don't get into that in this particular case because we don't know a lot about the individual, the victim, unfortunately. Sure. So this is more about the case and the findings. And again, as much as I tried to pull, there's limited information, but it's still a shocking and important case to cover.
Well, also because it's still new. I mean, as time goes on, there will be more evidence coming to light. We will develop more stories, articles, folklore surrounding it. But right now, it's still new. So as you will find, as you peruse crimes, true crimes, especially in recent history, you're going to see there's not a whole lot of information, yet it's still coming out.
Yeah.
Or you may have what they call misreporting, giving you information too soon. It's not true. They're trying to get the right story. So we're still, I think, in the process of putting it all together.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of these more recent crimes. I start to go research, and then I'm hit with updates, and I have Google alerts, and now we're getting a lot more of these 2022 crimes. So, and 2022 is relatively young still, youngish. We're only a few months in, but
yeah.
It's it's a scary thing. And when you're making a podcast about crime, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately.
Yeah. Never ending. It's a never ending escalator of crimes.
We could do an hourly show, unfortunately.
Yeah. It could be like a ticker, like what is it? The NASDAQ, just, you'll see the crimes. They don't stop.
I know. So into this crime. In mid-March of 2022, 26-year-old Italian porn star and mother of one, Carol Maltesi, who worked under the stage name Charlotte Angie, was reported missing when she failed to turn up at a lap dancing club. Now, Sal, this is a tragic story, but were you familiar with Charlotte Angie at all by chance? I was not. I did. Italian porn star, so...
Well, hang on. Was she only working in Italy, or did she work in the States too? Do we know that?
No, don't know.
Okay.
but I'm sure online's online, right?
Sure.
So,
well, you know what's interesting is for you younguns, once upon a time, you didn't have as many options and categories and choices
right.
of porn. Now you go into a website, some of the big ones, we don't have to mention any of them, but you can go there and there's an infinite array of categories.
Yeah.
You can kind of get lost in there, go through a labyrinth. So yeah, I might have come across Carol Maltesi, rest in peace. I might have,
yeah,
Charlotte Angie. I might have come across her. Well, geez, that's not a pun. I'm sorry. I might have seen her. Okay, right. I might have seen her, but I didn't know her name, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, it is possible. I may know the face, but not off the name. No.
Fair enough. Well, now, according to reports, and I'll go off of her real name, Maltesi. We'll use her name out of respect for the victim. I was sharing her stage name, but
sure.
Maltesi had actually been missing since January 2022. And during that time, her killer had pretended to be her in a twisted ruse aimed at making it seem as if she was still alive. Now, this included paying her rent, responding to her text messages. I mean, Sal, this is like beyond disturbing, and also reminds me of the very famous, infamous Gabby Petito murder, which happened, just last summer, when her fiance Brian Laundrie was doing, took her cell phone and was making, like text messages and trying to say she's okay. And it turns out that, she had been murdered. And then Brian wound up committing suicide in the midst of a nationwide manhunt for him. So nationwide manhunt. But that just immediately came to mind, like, oh yeah, because he was doing that, like buying time, keeping the victim alive, so to speak. And much in the same here.
Yeah, that's where you get into, like you said, a twisted and disturbing, because it's one thing they used to use a phrase called crime of passion. I don't know if they use that anymore.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't let you off the hook, but it kind of creates a scenario. Like it's almost like you didn't plan to kill them. It just happened, in a fit of rage or whatever. But once that happens, once you kill the person, what do you do?
Yeah. You give yourself up, reach out to the authorities. But no, if you keep the lie going, the cover-ups out,
terrible,
often worse than the crime itself, are just equally as bad. Maybe not worse, but yeah, you're keeping it going. I mean, that was a disturbing thing, but it's happening here. So Maltesi's obviously missing, killed. We find this out, and this person is, continuing this tale, this ruse, which is terrible. I mean, think about family, friends, all these people like, okay, well, I guess she's okay. Oh, it's so disturbing to hear.
It's kind of like a fine line between psycho and evil. Like if you kill somebody with a hammer, as this killer did, you kill them, and then that's psycho. You are a psycho. You need to be dealt with. But then the cover up was you start to go into the realm of evil. You go from psycho to evil. Now you're just an evil person beyond even psycho. And once you're in the evil realm, I don't know if there's any hope for you at all. And I just hope they keep you away.
Yeah. Sal, you're giving spoilers away. So
I know I did. Well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Yeah. So as for Maltesi's killer, it was 43-year-old Italian banker, Davide Fontana, who was also her friend and neighbor. Now, Fontana murdered Maltesi with a hammer, which is disturbing in itself. I mean, I can't even imagine how brutal that is. And I don't want to. And then, Sal, to take it further than that, dismembered her body and hid it in his freezer.
I missed that word, his personal freezer, like his home kitchen freezer. Oh my God.
So the murder is awful enough, Sal, but when you get into dismemberment, it just takes this sick and twisted churn. And we've had a recent crime we've covered about dismemberment, and it's just the images that pop in your head. It's the disrespect for the dead. It's so many things. It crosses so many lines for me.
It is. And you know what? It's not easy. I mean, you got to put some muscle into it. It is not easy, I'm certain, to dismember a human being. I'm just imagining you're gonna break a sweat. Yeah. You're gonna have to put some elbow grease into that, which makes it just that more wicked.
Yeah, can you imagine this person doing this, Fontana, and then getting a text message? Oh, no, I'm okay. Everything's fine. And then you're back to the grind. Unbelievable. So,
no. Real wicked, evil, twisted. Those are the words for sure.
Yeah. So now eventually Fontana learned that the police were looking for Maltesi because, hey, she's missing for a few months, right? No one's asking questions. And so he stuffed her remains into several bags and threw them off a mountain road in Brescia. Sorry, let me see. Brescia. So it's a town just 2 hours outside of Milan. So I'm not familiar with Italy. I'm sorry. So, but in most cases, Sal, this grotesque nature, this wasn't very well planned. I mean, you take it to this level, and then you just throw the body in some bags, and then throw it off a mountainside. I mean, thank goodness this is sounding kind of sloppy, because if it was well thought out, he probably would have burned the body, buried it, not just gotten wild hair to hit the road in Italy and then just fling things off a country road. I mean, unfortunately, it does lead back to him, but I cannot believe this is the plan.
No, so that's what makes me believe that it was possibly not a premeditated murder.
Right.
Might have been a crime of passion, in a fit of rage, a fit of jealousy, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then becomes the evil cover-up. Yeah, very sloppily done. This guy probably did not plan this in advance. But unfortunately, a guy like this, whenever somebody is capable of something like this, obviously they get arrested. It's maybe their first arrest for such a thing. But I always wonder if they've done something like this before.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things like, by the time the a person gets caught shoplifting, they shoplifted many times before that. Right. It's just now they got caught. So in a situation like this, I hope and pray that she was his first and only victim.
Well, as sloppy as this was, I would say yes. So let's hope that. I mean, he could have killed animals, right? Where the stakes aren't as high, which is still tragic and terrible in its own self. But we don't know. I was just saying that anytime that we've covered these types of grotesque things, these types of murders, usually it's a sloppy job. It's like they do it, they're in over their head, and they start making these irrational decisions, and then it leads back to them. All roads lead back to these guys. Thank goodness they're sloppy, is my point.
Yeah, no, yes, thankfully they are sloppy, which makes them easier to catch for sure.
So shortly after disposing of Maltesi's body, a passerby spotted a mutilated hand with glitter nail polish, but the woman was not identifiable because her face had been burned. Oh. So he went so far as to burn her face to try to, lessen her features. I'm sure I don't know about her teeth. They didn't get into that, right? Her dental records. But authorities then released a description that included details of her 11 tattoos, 7 of which were intact, including the words "Wanderlust" on her upper body, "Elegance is the ... down her back, and "Step by Step" on her right ankle. Now, these are
interesting phrases.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously very iconic tattoos, and they're going to stand out, especially for a porn star. Now, Carol Maltesi, as Charlotte Angie, launched her porn career on the adult site onlyfans.com, I'm assuming, and also had inverted V tattoos on her inner thighs, which were visible in many of her X-rated videos. Now, again, these are very iconic tattoos for her. And Sal, separate question, no judgment here, but when you talked about sites earlier, are you familiar with OnlyFans? It seems like I've heard about it. I don't know it. I don't know if this is in the States or this is an Italian one, or I thought there was a fans only, but that could be about sports. I don't know. But are you familiar at all?
Well, fans only, I think, is something different. OnlyFans.
I think so, right? Yes.
Just to be clear, OnlyFans is not only for pornographic content or adult performers. There was a UFC star recently, Diego Sanchez, who launched an OnlyFans giving training tips and MMA tips. So it's not only for adult
content.
It's
just for creators, right?
It is for creators.
And you can subscribe and you can do whatever you want with it, I'm assuming.
Yes. But along the way, it was sort of
kind of pivoted.
Well, there's a large bulk of adult content on OnlyFans, but OnlyFans is not only adult content.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't familiar. I didn't look it up, but yeah, that makes complete sense. But they don't restrict them like YouTube would, right?
Yeah.
You just do
Well,
what
you
you
know,
want.
the interesting thing about YouTube as a video sharing service is there is no adult content on YouTube except in the name of education. So there is nudity on YouTube. They
Okay.
do show genitalia on YouTube
Okay.
if it is within the context of an educational video. For example, there are videos on there about how to wax, how to give yourself a bikini wax,
Oh,
how to
okay.
do a prostate exam. There's stuff like that under the name of medical and educational that
Okay.
does indeed have nudity, which I find very interesting because, I mean,
But it's
it's
not a
just, yeah,
sexual
no, it's
nature.
non-sexual,
Yeah.
but it is nudity and it is there. So don't go
Okay.
there. Do not look, but it's there. Trust me. Take my word for it.
Yeah. Well, very interesting tattoos. These are indeed iconic tattoos, and it leads us to, well, as the title of this episode says, it helps solve the case. Because, yeah, if this guy was thinking, he would also think, hey, who all has these, right?
Sure.
Elegance is the step-by-step and wanderlust, but he's going to burn her face and not even think to do that. You know, those might be the bags that you don't maybe put them in such different places, but thank goodness this is not, doesn't sound like a serial killer. It sounds like a guy who got in over his head,
Yeah.
a bad guy who needs to pay the price, but not one that has a body count higher than one. Let's hope.
I'm feeling kind of regretful because I myself do not have any tattoos. Were I to be killed, how would they identify me with no? I'm kind of average in a way. Like you know, there's nothing I would say majorly identifiable about me per se. Maybe I should get a couple of tattoos, a couple of unique tattoos, so people can identify me.
Well, the GPS that was put in your system a long time ago, just
with the vaccine, is that what you...
Yeah, I have no tattoos on.
You don't have any tattoos,
but I don't judge. I just don't want any. I don't want any tattoos. So.
No, I'm the same. I don't want tattoos, but I do like tattoos. Okay. I do appreciate tattoos for a couple of things. One is the art. I do appreciate a beautiful tattoo.
Absolutely.
Also the tribal history. There's a lot of tribes today, but also historically will do body art. Also, you know, my oldest brother is an LA City firefighter and had to fight the city a few years ago because a new captain came into the LA City firefighting force and made new rules about visible tattoos. So for a while there, my brother was required to wear clothing completely covered up, even in the firehouse, even in the privacy of their firehouse. Wow. There was some press involved. He, I think, got an attorney and was able to at least get grandfathered into the fact that, well, he has visible tattoos, but since he's already on the force, he can stay. But I think the new recruits, no visible tattoos on LA City firefighters.
How about that? What if it was like one just showing like, you know, firefighters or your platoon number or whatever, your firehouse? That's crazy.
They do have that because there are sort of like, for example, my oldest brother was the president of the firefighter motorcycle club. Yeah. It was kind of like, I mean, they would look like bikers to the casual observer, but they're firefighters. So yeah, there are clubs within the ranks of the LA City firefighters connected to the firefighters, and they do have tattoos. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, on that note, the tattoos in question here, Maltesi had, did in fact lead the police to identify her, which made Fontana come forward.
Whoa.
So yeah, this is what's happening here. So yeah, they put her tattoos out there online, you know, like, hey, is anyone, and it helped them bring in enough people who could identify her. So they had, you know, they identified the victim. So Fontana comes forward, but Sal, he came forward to tell investigators that he knew her, but denied any involvement in her disappearance.
Sure.
So he felt nervous about enough to come forward. And I also read that he was kind of filling in some blanks and his stories weren't adding up. You know, there was some, you know, things were starting to contradict himself. And, you know, these guys are wise investigators. They don't have any suspects. You know, here's a body bag on the side of the road and like, who's this porn star? And here's her neighbor and friend who's like, yeah. So immediately he's becoming, you know, suspect number one, I'm sure, or at least one of a few.
Yeah.
And, you know, it always comes down to motive, Sal. We talk about this before in these types of crimes, like who has the motive? Who is this going to be? And the police are already looking at Fontana like suspiciously.
Well, you talk about motives. Do we have a motive yet? Otherwise, I'm going to assume in a situation like this where she's a porn star, she's a stripper. They said that she shouldn't show up at her lap dance job at a strip club, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you could go back over anybody where she shot films, or does she do more jobs like this? Sure. I'm sure they went down the usual beats. Like, oh, if she's not doing this, where is she at? But then here comes a neighbor who knows her, and his story's acting a little bit off. Like, he doesn't have it all buttoned up. Like they didn't even say what he was saying, but other than the fact that he was contradicting himself, like saying, well, his facts weren't matching what they already knew. So he's creating his own issues. He's digging his own grave.
Well, you got to get your story straight. If you're going to talk to the authorities, hey, listen, whether you're innocent or guilty, that's your business, but you have to get your story straight. I had a friend tell me about an auto accident. Tell me about their involvement in an auto accident. A few months down the road, they tell me the same story, and I go, your story's a bit different. And of course, they got all mad and defensive. But I said, no, I'm not saying you hit the person. I'm just telling you to get your story straight. Yeah. That's all I'm telling you.
You didn't tell me you were drunk the first time you told me this story.
Yeah. You didn't mention the wine bottles in the back. You didn't mention that.
Oh, yeah. Lay off, Sal. So police then tracked his movements over the previous few months. So they started investigating Fontana. They searched his home, and Sal, they found a large freezer. They also located the same type of garbage bags that were used to dispose of the body, and DNA evidence that ultimately incriminated him. DNA will get you every time, Sal. I know that you know this.
There you go. That's why I love forensic files. I really do. I love seeing guilty people put away from a science base. I mean, I love that because, they say eyewitness testimony is the most unreliable testimony. But once upon a time, that's all we had.
Your friend can't even keep their story straight. Their own story about their own car crash or whatever it was. One car accident. Yeah. It's like, I forgot. I'm hazy on those details now. So yeah, you're right. It's a terrible, thing to rely on, but they've got DNA proof here. And if that wasn't enough, Sal, they also found video surveillance allegedly showing Maltesi and Fontana together in her car in January. And then that vehicle had not been seen or anywhere until March, when it was clocked going through a toll booth in Barno, an hour, or so away from where they discovered the bodies. So the walls out are beginning to cave in.
But are we implying that he was the person driving through that toll booth?
So he probably put that car in a garage, sat there, and then he was like, I got to do something with this car and the bodies. And all of a sudden that car makes a resurgence. It goes through a toll booth in Borneo. Borno. And I don't know the proximity, an hour or so away, 2 hours from Milan, but he's taking her car. Now, did he ditch that car? That's where like the details, there's no more information on it. I don't know if that car was found on the side of the road or what he did, but it was clocked there. So, but the video surveillance is very, damning, obviously. Hey, you hadn't seen her in a while. No one's seen her since when you guys had this, moment in the car, and they weren't even clear on where the video surveillance came from. Was it from a Ring camera? I don't know, but it doesn't look good for Fontana.
Oh, and I'm very happy to hear that. This guy kills someone in cold blood, even if it's in a rageful fit. He kills someone. His massive cover-up, dismemberment, putting her in the freezer, the garbage bags, which to me that just reeks of disrespect.
So much
reeks of just. I mean, I'm not like Mr. Feminist, but words like misogyny. Just like this guy hates women. Obviously, guys like this, obviously, in the most extreme sense, give just average guys a bad name. Now women are running around thinking that we're all psychopaths like this guy. Yeah. Oh, I hope this guy is never walking the streets ever again.
Well, as he was facing mounting evidence, Fontana finally told investigators that he accidentally killed Maltesi during consensual sex and then chopped her up and hid the remains.
Okay, Jason, I'm going to share something with you real quick. There have been women in my life, and I've talked to other guys, maybe women who like a little bit of S&M during sex. Okay, so I've been with some women in the past. They like to be choked. They like to have their kind of air cut off. And I was so reluctant. They probably just thought I was, some pansy. But I'll be like, this is very dangerous. Like, what if I accidentally killed you? I'm going to tell the police, oh, she wanted this? I said no. And of course, it creates a bad scene. Me basically declining their wishes, But yeah, I do believe it is possible to accidentally kill someone during consensual sex. It's possible. That's why we have to try not to do it. And also, just for the record, it is very hard to kill somebody. I think one of our stories we talked about that. We talked about a detective was saying such a thing. It's not easy to kill someone. So yeah, you got to be careful. Do not do it. Do not put yourself in that situation. And if you do ever kill somebody accidentally, you put your hands up, you call the authorities, and you claim it, and you don't try this massive cover up, which makes you only look more and more evil.
Well, back to your story. I would say if you're ever in that situation again, and you're going to go through with it, film it.
Okay.
You guys are both get consent right there. Just go through everything.
Have you ever been skydiving?
No.
Okay, when you go skydiving, before you go on the plane,
to do that.
You have to be on camera and put your hands up and say, I realize I am skydiving. I realize that it is dangerous. I do consent. You literally do an on-camera consent.
There you go.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that now if you're going to be doing anything wacky.
Same thing. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yes.
So now, among the creepy details of the alleged confession, here's how, sorry, this got clunky here. How he used the phone, he being Fontana, and Maltesi's phone for the last 3 months. And he was using it to tell her mother that she had left porn. He also sent kinky messages to her boyfriend who lives in Holland. So these are the things like I said earlier, like, oh, I got a text, man, we get back to sawing the body up. He was literally like proactive in this way. And then
he was impersonating
her, keeping her alive. And like, well, the boyfriend, he'll like this. And he's probably asking questions. And the mom's like, hey, you should get out of porn. So yeah, he's taken it upon himself to speak for her after he killed her and dismembered her. And then police published, of course, I mentioned this earlier, they published the photos of her tattoos, and that's what, got her identified. Well, several friends and fans wrote after seeing that, they wrote to Maltesi to see if she was okay. And of which Fontana responded by saying, allegedly saying, but yes, they look like me, meaning the tattoos, but luckily I'm okay.
Oh my God.
Because people are reaching out like, that it kind of could be yours. It was too similar. I wanted to, and there was a lot more about it. A reporter had written this and I thought, oh my gosh, he just kept the lie going, keeping everything at bay, but he knew it was coming to an end, Sal.
I could only imagine that this, let's say this very disturbed individual, this assailant, utilizing technology. I'm wondering if maybe some of the, famous historical serial killers of yesteryear, such as Bundy and Gacy, would have done such a thing had they had the technology available. Would they have done such a thing? Because I'm kind of even thinking, hell, even Bundy hasn't done something like this, impersonating their victims. Has he done anything like that? I don't think so. Did Gacy impersonate people? But I don't think Gacy did.
I don't think Bundy got that close to his victims. I don't think he was going.
They were strangers.
A neighbor, right? It was so random. How could you pin it back to them? And then nor would he go forward to the cops and be caught in video survey. Like, unfortunately, Bundy was really good at what he did. And Gacy. And so, I think it was a lot more random and hard to pin down.
Wow. This is very, very sad, very tragic.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. It was a little clunky there, but that was I was just reading that earlier was so disturbing. So the mother is sitting there thinking, I can only imagine, Sal, like I even hinted at this earlier, but the mother, the boyfriend, the friends, the family, they think later on. So when they find this out, when they find out that they were talking to the killer, like, what does that do to them? Not only they're, mourning the loss of Maltesi, Carol, but they're also like, I was communicating with this sociopath, this killer. Like, that's just, how do you even get over that?
Well, Jason, this is when I believe in trying to have justice prevail. I do believe in giving the courts the opportunity to do what courts do. But you know what? There are times when I believe in looking the other way and allowing good old fashioned street justice to do its thing.
Street justice.
Justice. You know what? Like I said, I'll look the other way. I'm not a fan of capital punishment. I've said that publicly. I'm not a fan of capital punishment, but I might look the other way while something goes down. You know what I mean?
What happened to Dahmer in prison? people
He was
took him
killed,
out.
right? He was killed, yes.
I mean, Fontana gets in prison. I don't know what an Italian prison's like, but maybe they won't, take kind to someone who killed a porn star. I don't know.
Yeah.
We shall see. But on that note, as far as
Mm.
Fontana is concerned,
Yeah.
he indeed was arrested and charged with aggravated first-degree homicide, dismemberment, and concealing a corpse. So this is very fresh case, as we talked about. So he hasn't been sentenced yet, but it seems pretty much open and shut case, Sal. I mean, I would say all this evidence and his confession, so I think that they've got their man and put him away for a long time. What, as you say, street justice, prison justice, I don't know. No comment here, but he needs to be put away and throw the key far away.
Yeah, well, I guess we might have a follow-up when we cover his sentencing, maybe, right? Maybe we'll see what happens. I don't know. Do they have the death penalty in Italy?
Italy, I'm not sure.
I don't know. And of course, this guy did his own self a disservice, because if he would have done it and maybe thrown his hands up and said, I'm sorry, and then at this point, they might have given him a second degree. Maybe he would have done 10 years. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this. Instead, the whole cover up, oh my God, texting the family. And then that one weird thing, provocative messages to the boyfriend. This guy was a total weirdo all the way, in every sense of the word. So yeah, I'm now at this point, I want to know what's going to happen to this guy and how long he will indeed be put away.
So I just looked this up in the moment there. Italy has banished capital punishment. So that will not happen. They had it at one point in time, a long time ago, but just put him away for a long time. Do not let this guy. I mean, this guy was a banker. He had the money and the means. He didn't need to get caught up in this, whatever that was. And if it really was an accident, call the authorities and say, it got kinky and I don't know. And you're right. They throw he put him away for a little while, or it's a lot, but the further he took this lie, it got worse and worse and worse and worse and disrespectful to, rest in peace, Carol Maltesi. So sad. She was so young, 26 years old, starting a career, doing well, a very legitimate site, right? Meets the wrong person, the wrong neighbor.
And to be fair, to be absolutely fair, based on the information that you and I have at our disposal here, we don't know if there was any relationship to her profession.
Don't know.
To her demise. We don't know if there's any connection.
Could this be a jealous fan?
Yeah, she could have been, or remember, a neighbor. So who knows? She could have been a waitress. She could have been an accountant. You know what I mean? Like, it could have had nothing to do with it.
You meet Fontana and he's like, he gets this fetish, like, oh, she's in the adult industry and I'm a banker and I like what. You never know what could have, lit him up. Something had to cross that line. Something put that seed there where they're going to be intimate, and then it just goes south. He was fulfilling some sort of weird fantasy, and then obviously he didn't think it out, and this is where you make bad decisions, and it's terrible. It's terrible. And I know we cover these types of gruesome crimes on That's a Crime, as well as much lighter misdemeanors, but I felt like it was important to cover, and it was also kind of fascinating. And we'll look and see if there's any more information. The Italian newspapers were a little tricky to navigate. We'll see if we have that, but
sure. Also, Jason, I think if I've ever heard an argument in favor of getting tattoos, here we are.
There you go.
Here we are. It helps to it helps to identify you.
Yeah, she may never have been identified. Passerby sees a hand and it's like, what body is this? Yeah, it could have gone years, forever. A Jane Doe. It could have never been solved. So that covers it, Sal. The porn star's iconic tattoos solve murder case in 2022.
Lastly, rest in peace, Carol, and also said mother of one, so her child.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We didn't get into her child.
She has a son. I did say that.
Okay, no, I hope he's okay. I hope he's not. Something like this happens, a great tragedy, and then the kid has to carry this their whole life. So I hope that they're okay as well.
Yeah, we didn't even mention the father. She had a boyfriend in Holland, so I hope that he has a parent. Another parent, the father. I hope that there's grandparents. Obviously, it did mention the mother, so hopefully they're around. But yeah, very, very tragic. I don't even know if there's a GoFundMe. It was not, but it was really tricky because it was this Italian story. I think it had the pizzazz, so it popped up on a few things, but everybody had the same little bit of information, you know. But really interesting case, tragic, and sound. Until the next one.
Yeah. And we will try, to our listeners, we will tell you that we will do our best efforts to provide a follow-up if and when we do hear about sentencing.
Absolutely. So unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
And get 20% off and free shipping with the code thatsacrime at manscaped.com.
So thank you so much for listening. And please be sure to subscribe to the That's a Crime podcast, as well as the That's a Crime YouTube live channel. You can also really help us by giving the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts.
And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any That's a Crime social media platform.
We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com.
Thank you.
All right.